Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you may be watching. Welcome to this CSC webinar on students are our most valuable resource, but how do we recruit, train, and retain them? We're excited to have two awesome panelists joining us today. But first, my name is Patrick Murphy. I'm the Athletic Communications Coordinator at the Colorado School of Mines. This webinar is presented as a collaboration between the Young Professionals Committee and the Professional Development and Education Committee, and I'm excited to be your moderator today. Joining me first, the Director of Athletic Communications at Tufts University, Jamie Chagnon, and the Director of Athletic Communications and Creative Content at the College of Charleston, Lynn Walsh. Thank you to everyone who registered and is watching along with us today. We appreciate all the questions you submitted during pre-registration. Be sure to use the Q&A feature during this session to submit questions as they come up. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can, as well as many of the pre-registered questions that we got before this session started. So we've got a lot to cover, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to our panelists to share a little bit about themselves and introduce themselves. Jamie, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about student workers and how important they are to our field and our offices. I'm in my fourth year at Tufts University here in just outside Boston, Division III school in the NESCAC. I've been at a lot of different D3 schools. I've worked at UNLV as well as an intern. I was, I've been at Division III schools, Lynchburg and Susquehanna, started at Randolph College, which is in the ODEC as well. But, student workers is a passionate topic for me, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
Awesome, Jamie. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. Lynn, how about you?
Yeah, hi everyone. As Patrick mentioned, my name is Lynn Walsh. I'm the Director of Communications and Creative Content at the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. Entering my fourth year here in this role. Prior to that, spent 4 years at Bridgewater College, another ODAC institution. So Jamie and I have some ties in that field. But student workers really are what make both offices and both situations I've been in. It's what makes it happen, right? Student workers are kind of how we make everything go round and create some of that work-life balance. So excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn, for joining us today. Like I said, we have a lot to get to. A lot of excellent questions were submitted during pre-registration. Again, make sure you use the Q&A function in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of those questions in this session as we can. But Lynn, we'll go ahead and have you hit lead off today with our first sort of subset of subjects today, talking about recruitment of student workers. This is a question I think came up during my session, honestly, during this summer at CSC Unite in Orlando, when we were talking about how to do more with less. But how do you get help and develop a worker pool when you don't have the money to pay people? And how does that affect recruitment, retention, and training?
Yeah, and it's really important to acknowledge the type of institution that you're at when approaching this question, right? The Division III schools are going to be a little bit different than a large public state-funded university, right? Just naturally in the draw of students that you have and the bodies on campus, right? And kind of how athletics is viewed on your campus as well, right? Are these students viewing it as kind of this, oh, everyone wants to be involved, let's do this? Or there's some campuses where, frankly, your student body doesn't even know that you have an athletic department, right? So first, you need to be self-aware of the position you are in. It's really important to take advantage of opportunities that are already on campus for you, right? If you have a student involvement fair, if you have communication classes, right? And I say that as someone who's reached out to professors all the time over my career and has gotten no bite, right? These classes exist, these journalism, these TV, right? But be creative with this. If you don't have the money and the funds to pay these students, right? You kind of just got to work a little harder to find the students that are truly in it for the experience, which is a really tough pill for all of us to swallow, right? And that we can't compensate them in what we feel is a fair way. But, right, there's students that are out there, whether it's looking for internship credits, whether it's looking for just pure love and experience to get into it. You kind of got to dig deep. And that means sometimes taking some more time and hours onto yourself, the more that you put into this process on the front end, no matter how much, right, we might be staying till 8 o'clock for that student fair on our one off day of the week, right? That's then going to pay dividends 3 months from now when you've got 8 events going on and you're getting out of the office a little earlier.
Jamie, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think Lynn really hit the nail on the head there. The one thing that we try to do, here at Tufts is we have academic programs on campus that allow us to do independent study programs. So whether it's film and media studies for our creative content student workers, or videographers and photographers in that realm, as well as a journalism major, and possibly being able to like write stories to help cover busy Saturdays. If you can find relevant academic programs that can kind of match up a student with you to help out, that really can be an important way to find student workers when it might be tough to recruit otherwise.
That's an excellent segue into our next question, Jamie, and I'll kind of have you take the lead on it and kind of expound on what you were just talking about. But if you're at a very small school with no sports management program or no communications related degree and limited resources, how do you go about attracting student help at those institutions?
Yeah, I think it's tough. There are ways to find good workers, despite the fact that you might not have academic programs that maybe match up so much with an athletic communications field. For example, when I was at Randolph and at Vassar, maybe not the biggest athletic schools, I would say, finding kids was tough. But what we try to do is establish kind of a group and allow them to bond and develop with each other. And then throughout that, they started to know and get to know our student athletes. And then that kind of just grew itself. Student athletes are also a really great avenue to go about. If you build relationships with our student athletes, they see how hard you work. They're going to want to help you out maybe when they're not in season. And, they're always going to be supportive of other student athletes normally. So if you can find, dependable student athletes that are maybe out of season that you can, use when they're, not busy with their sports, that's a really, really great, avenue to go down if you can. I think what we've done also is we've really tried to hit social media and recruit that way. Recruit on social media, throw graphics up, say, hey, you can help us out in this department. We've gotten a lot of success with that. Use social media, since we're always on it. Use it to help, find kids that really want to help out. And we've had a ton of success with that.
Lynn, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll echo Jamie's sentiments about getting to know your student athletes. That comes back to your role as an SID in your department, right? Put student workers aside for a minute. Are you developing relationships with your coaches? Are you developing relationships with your student athletes? Do they know who you are and what you do, right? And by building that relationship, when you do come into a pinch, especially at some of these smaller institutions where your student athletes might make up just a large population of the student body as a whole, they know what you do and they see the value in it. And a lot of times, let's say a volleyball player sitting in a stand at a basketball game, they go, oh, well, if you don't have a camera operator for my game, I would want one of my friends on the basketball team to take over too, right? A lot of these roles that we're asking interns and student athletes to do, particularly on game day, right? Whether it's filming, whether it's scoreboard operator, whether it's ball rolling, right? Like they can do and they can pick it up quickly. We're not kind of breaking the wheel and looking for these high volume, high intellect thinking tasks a lot of times, right? We just need people that are willing. So if they know what you do and you say hi in the hallway, right? That goes for coaches too, right? Assistant coaches can help you out, right? If they know who you are and they know where your intentions are and that the good you're doing for the department, right? But if they see you as kind of this person that's never engaging and never around and it feels like a chore and you don't really want to be at your job, right? Like I probably wouldn't help you out, right?
Yeah.
Those are some great answers. Appreciate the good start that we're getting off to. We've gotten a couple questions rolling in through the live Q&A. So for all of our attendees who are already joining or in the process of joining us, make sure you're using that. We'll try to get to those as we're able to, and when we get to relevant sections with all those. So we'll keep an eye on that. But as we keep going, how do you get students from other departments on campus or prevent your students from being potentially poached by other departments on campus? Sometimes that's a struggle at any level when somebody finds an exceptional talent and that talent ends up either staying with you or going somewhere else and you lose an asset. I'll let both of you jump in on that. Lynn, take the lead off on that one.
Yeah, when it comes to student workers, I'm really big. And when we were planning on this call, I probably said this phrase about 20 times, but like it's college. These kids are in college, they have 4 years here and they're figuring it out. And that's really important to remember is that they're not full-time workers, they're students, right? And they're figuring out their passions and we need to help them and support them on that journey, right? So if they want to go to university, Marcom, and they want to do other things, right? They always still have a spot here with me in athletics and I'm going to support them. The worst thing you can do is burn that bridge with that student on their way out. You want your office to be a place that they're always welcome back to, no matter what that time's going to look like, right? Because if they can help you out at one soccer game, that's better than no soccer games, right? So help them in their journey, kind of be upfront with, all right, here's what I can offer you. And I get it, right? I think a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on these students, but it's not a full-time job for them.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. And I think, at a lot of schools, you're able to work multiple jobs on campus. So if that student worker feels that they're able to get their schedule straight enough to be able to work in both places and accommodate that, then, that's the type of student that I would really want in my office, because they understand how important it is to manage their time correctly. And we've had a multiple amount of people that have done stuff with campus communications along with our office, and those are the student athletes or student workers, excuse me, that both offices start to trust more. They know that, hey, if there's something with the other end of office, the other campus communications, they can reach out to them being like, hey, is this going on with athletics, or vice versa. So we've had some success with that if they're able to do both. And I think those are really great kids to have. Also, I think in a lot of the creative content world, especially, people see that stuff on social media. And so there's always going to be possibly more opportunities for those kids to go out and find more money than maybe we can pay and to a work study student. But it's important to still encourage that, so that when that student talks about the experience in your office to maybe a younger creative content student, they may say, hey, he was a great resource for me. It's great to work here in the first 2 years, and take the experience that you can get out of them, and don't try to, like Lynn says, burn the bridge where they leave on a sour note, and then word gets out that it's just not great working in your office.
And then their friends don't want to come either. These
Right.
kids talk.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is always the greatest recruitment tool. Friends, if you have student workers who really enjoy what they're doing, guess what? You're going to have their friends come knocking on your door asking to work too, because getting paid to watch sports is an incredibly fun thing to do and a great way to spend your time.
Sure is.
Final question here in this recruitment section: balancing hiring for potential versus hiring for experience. Now, I know a lot of people watching will understand that what we do, there's some very niche things with it, but there's also some very generalized things with it. And obviously, anybody would take anyone who has an experience and a background in athletics and sports, so they have at least a general understanding of game mechanics and flow and everything else. But there's a lot of things where we have to teach them how to do things, like how to be a broadcast producer, or how to be a statistician, or how to position yourself as a photographer and manipulate camera settings. When for both of you, what do you look at when you're trying to delineate that balance of hiring versus experience versus hiring for potential?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with this one. I think it's really just you've got to try to find students that are excited and have great attitudes. And that's what I look for when I hire student workers. Is I really like to, have a face-to-face interaction with them before I bring them on, just to see their excitement and how they really want the position. Like what about the job, like, is, kind of gives them some sort of reason to be fired up about it. And so if there's I would love to have 15 student workers that are just amped to be in the office and like find things to do. And we'll teach them how to do a lot of that different stuff. And of course you want to have some sort of background in sports if possible. But you also want them to like what they're doing. And I think that goes a long way. Just, being present and being there with a great attitude is, like, for us, is the biggest part. And we'll find like opportunities for you to do things that you really enjoy. And if there are like tasks with, like, hey, I don't really know how to do volleyball, I don't understand volleyball stats, well, I'll put you on soccer where that's something that you do understand. So, we have to put student workers in the best, positions to succeed so that they have great experiences. And again, that will filter to, to other friends and other people, hopefully, and trying to keep that vibe high.
Yeah, when I have students reach out to me that they're interested in maybe taking on an opportunity in our office, I do the same thing as Jamie. I say, all right, let's set up a time, come in. I'll walk them through really kind of quickly everything that we do and the opportunities that are available to them. And then I turn it back on the student, right? So when you leave here, you need to get me office hour times and you need to get me sports that you want to work, right? And that'll kind of weed kids out as it is, right? I met with someone on Monday who still hasn't emailed me back, right? So like, we're not going to move forward with it. But I took 10 minutes out of my day, and maybe it could have gone the opposite direction. And majority of the time it does, but that kind of helps you vet on the front end. All right, this kid A took time out of their day to email me and figure out who I am and that this is kind of the place that they need to get that experience on campus, which is hard too, right? Especially if these kids aren't student athletes. A lot of the times they don't even know where to start. So figuring it out is a huge step on its own. But then the follow-up to all of that, right? Are they going to be responsible? Were they receptive to what I said? Do they understand what they're getting into? And giving them some responsibility on the front end.
So more great answers as we wrap up the section on recruitment. We'll go ahead and transition now to training student workers. Obviously, one of the most important aspects of any game day operation is having a table crew or a press box crew or any other kind of crew know what they're doing and be able to do that job at a high level. Lynn, we'll have you lead this one off. If you're working with a smaller shop, one person, two person, anything else, what are the best strategies to train students? For example, to do in-game statistics when you, as the senior administrator, are not able to?
Yeah, the amount of time you put in to your interns on the front end is what you're going to get in return, right? So if you only spend 5 minutes with them doing volleyball stats, odds are it's not going to go well, right? The reality of it is you have to take time out of your day. You have to take a practice volleyball match out of your day to sit and do it with these interns and make sure they understand. It's also really important to make sure that they're comfortable with things before you throw them into the fire. Right? Because then that just creates more work for you on the back end if you have to go fix something in the long run. And then once you kind of have those interns too, and I've got one on this call, right, who was an intern with me for 2 years at Charleston and is off doing great things in the industry now. But like by the time she was a senior, like she was running things on her own and I could say, hey, can you come in? I've got this freshman coming in. Can you just kind of show her how to do this really quick? Yep, cool, got it, right? And building up that trust over time, right? She was started here before I got to Charleston, but the effort was put in and the support was put in prior to me to help her get to that point. And then because that was put in with people who were here before me, it paid dividends for me in her being able to train things. So she knows who she is. I won't call her out directly, but
Yeah, no, I agree. Like we talk about, investing time so that you're saving time, right? And that's huge. I think like CSC has done a great job of posting, for instance, webinars on the NSCM and how to score games. And what I try to do is if I have a group of 6 or 7 or 8 student workers that are just going to be our stat students for that year, send them those links, have them watch them, and then we bring them all in at once and we, talk through the practice games. We go through that and we spend a couple hours, training these students so that they can ask questions of each other. There's people that have done it for a few years, maybe some new people. So they answer each other's questions and then we run through a game. And it really does save us a lot of time in the end. And it saves me a lot of stress in knowing like, okay, if we have a volleyball match on homecoming and I have to be at soccer or football, I'll feel fine with them at volleyball. They keep each other accountable and, they want to do a good job. And so that's been great for us. And plus my intern position, what I do is try to make sure they're trained to be able to train. So a lot of the time I'll have them come in and then they feel that sense of pride that they can train our stat kids. So that kind of takes it off of my plate. And it's like their responsibility to make sure our student workers are ready to roll once the games happen. And that's really worked well for us. And I think it gave them like a sense of accomplishment that they were in charge of that role so that, we're always sometimes looking for interns and GAs to do certain things. And that was the kind of their role at Tufts was to train our stat student workers. So that worked really well.
And it's really important to make sure that just because if a student doesn't pick up on something right away, that they're not going to be able to, right? It takes time to invest. We can't just get these kids showing up at our door and expect that 2 hours is going to magically make them an SID, right? Because odds are that is not what it was like for all of us on this call in the industry, right? So you can't just toss a kid aside because in your eyes, they're not picking it up, right? They're making the effort, they're showing up, and that's a lot to ask for someone in college.
Jamie mentioned it a little bit in his answer, but I would also be remiss in my duties as a moderator if I wasn't doing my due diligence in promoting CSC's webinars for statistics. I believe there's one previously this fall with Presto Sports, and I believe there's an upcoming one for soccer. Those are great assets from other people in the industry that you can have your student workers watch if you're not available to do things. And then also, For everybody that uses NCAA Live Stats, the School and Conference Manager Knowledge Base is an excellent tool for helping student workers go on their own, be able to understand how the program works, and help them also further understand game mechanics and stat keeping for all the sports that software is out for. Sorry, baseball, softball, lacrosse, and field hockey. We're just going to have to keep waiting. Pivoting real quick back to what we're talking about here with training. So go ahead and keep using the question and answer feature. Keep getting those questions rolling in, and we'll answer those as they come in an appropriate manner. Jamie, what are the most effective training methods you've seen for stat keeping versus creative roles? I know the creative team at Tufts has done some really exceptional work. Have seen that firsthand as being part of the CSC Creative and Digital Design Contest. How about you take the lead on answering this one?
Yeah, I think it's certainly different for each role. I think for our creatives, this year, we really saw a couple of them step forward into leadership roles, and they wanted to be able to work with the other incoming newcomers that, kind of sought us out to join our team this year, which was fantastic. And the newcomers kind of shadowed the experienced workers in the beginning, but they actually held their own meeting together. We were all in a group chat, and they got together in a classroom and went through, the settings that we want for each sport and each venue. So like, okay, when you get to the gym, here's the light that'll be right. Or like when you're out on the field for cloudy days in terms of like really sunny days, and that way how to color grade and all that stuff. And they went through a lot of that. And I just kind of sat there and watched them and added some things here and there, but it was all about their accountability and how they want our page to look. And so once you empower your student workers to feel a sense of pride in what you're doing, they really will surprise you a lot of the times. And then obviously with the stat stuff, like Lynn said, they've just got to do it. You've got to let them get on the computer, and don't be afraid to kind of step back and let them, try and do it in games, whether it's on a practice game, whether it's they're sitting in a different computer next to you while you're doing it, or, letting them do it and, letting them fail a little bit, because they'll learn and they'll get better. And that's really the best way you're going to do it. In terms of like writing for that kind of thing, again, it's practice stories, having them write different styles of ways, and in that way you can see how they write, and then, match it up with the style that you want for your website. And normally, students are really, really quick learners now. So, definitely give them that opportunity to kind of sometimes surprise you.
Lynn, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll add, right, because we balance a lot of hats and there's a lot of things that go into our jobs. And right on the creative side, right, that's not my strength as being a graphic designer, right? I know my way around Photoshop, but let's say I have an intern who is, give them assignments, they come ask me, how do I do this? Be like, all right, let's figure it out together. Like, come in here, bring your laptop, let's do some Google, let's play around, right? If you kind of show that you're invested in their learning, that maybe you could pick up a trick or two as well along the way. But just be invested and involved, right? Make yourself approachable, that they can come ask you that question that they think you might know the answer when you don't.
Got a question that just came in the live chat. Appreciate everyone participating in that. Keep those coming in. We're going to try and get to as many of those as we can, so don't be afraid to submit something. And if we don't, we'll keep it around, and you can email one of us directly. We can try and get back to you. How many student workers do your respective departments have, and what is the history of getting your student pool to where it is currently? Has it been a long process, starting with nothing, getting it to where it is now, or has it been more of just maintaining and keeping your numbers where they are? And how many years did that take? And are you happy with where you're at, or do you want to expand your staffs further?
Yeah, I can take this one first, and great question. And short answer, it does take time. When I got here to Charleston, I had 2 student interns, and that was a whole process, right? I started in September. I said, what do you mean we only have 2 interns here? So I had to kind of figure out the avenues to go down. A lot of schools will have student job boards, right? Posted a job board, and the applicants started coming in. A lot of those applicants were freshmen, right? So I think I took on maybe 4 freshmen that first year I was here. I haven't posted on that site since the initial posting back in 2022, because those 4 freshmen are now seniors. through word of mouth, through increasing our efforts that we've done here and kind of what our visibility and our external approaches, more students know about us. So I just get emails now. We have 12 total. I don't know if I mentioned that initially, but I currently have 12 interns. And I cap it at that because I need them to get something out of it too. And it also doesn't do me any benefits to have more than work I have to give them, if that makes sense, right? So I want to make sure, A, that they're being productive when they come into the office and that they're getting something out of it as well. But that kind of 4 freshmen, they're all still with us today. Students now, even in 4 years since coming here, they're able to figure things out a lot quicker. And I think students are coming into college with a better idea of what it is they want to do, too. I've noticed that change as well. I love to get freshmen because I love when we can kind of mold and develop them and keep them for 4 years. But that's also understanding a 4-year-long investment to get them to where you want to be. So yeah, it's a balance, and it's not going to happen immediately because then, right, they bring their friends and professors learn and they know what they're doing and all that fun stuff comes about. So it's a process for sure.
Yeah, I mean, here at Tufts, when I first got here back in September of 22, I think we had actually, I don't think we had any student workers. We had a couple of people that helped out at games, but they weren't really under my kind of department. Now we have 12 creative student workers and 12 office hours / stout. So 24 total. Yeah, it definitely took some time. The one thing that I really tried at first was we used Handshake. It did not work. It did not work well for us at Tufts. It was kind of like what they wanted us to try. So started to just reach out to coaches and say, hey, do you have any federal work study student workers that need jobs? And then through that kind of, started to ask more people if they were interested. They had friends, actually our biggest here at Tufts, our biggest resource for student workers is our sailing team, which probably not a lot of people have a sailing team, but, it was great for them because they got in our office. They kind of saw how things worked. I got to have a personal relationship with our sailors, got to know more about the sport. They felt like they're being covered better, which is, kind of an individual sport that probably doesn't feel like they're being as covered, maybe like your football team. So that was kind of a cool relationship that we were able to kind of grow. And then, as we had one student worker who did all of our video my first year, and then it was really good. And so a lot of people saw that and were like, wow, I would love to try to do that and work with Mark. That sounds great. And then, so like we all kind of, that just grew by, word of mouth and, social media doing its social media thing. And I'm pretty confident or comfortable with where our office is now in terms of numbers. As everyone has a budget and how much they can and can't pay. And I think we've kind of hit the top of what we can pay for our student worker budget. So, pretty comfortable where we are, and excited about, kind of the future of where we're going with it.
And just another point of reference for the individual who asked this question. We appreciate you putting this one in. Really, really good question. Really good discussion here. Out here at Mines, we have about 18 student workers. And as far as our recruitment and everything goes, we try to replace as many as we lose each year. So I think this year we brought on about 5 student workers as freshmen. And the previous 5 were here pretty much working the entirety of their time on campus. Obviously, with us being a STEM school and engineering, we might have them for a little bit longer than 4 years. Not necessarily too keen on the information that we had prior to our staff size before I got here. I'm going on my 4th year, and I feel like our staff's been about the same, 16 to 18 student workers for the duration of my time here. But my boss was here. He's been here going on his 10th year, and our other assistant going on his 7th year, who handles all of our staffing and recruitment by way of going to student job fairs like the first couple weeks of school. I would imagine that they did their due diligence and gradually staff up to accommodate for our needs and everything else over time and getting it to where it is now, where we're very comfortable being able to plug and play any number of our kids in any number of assignments just because of how we cross-train them to be able to do everything. Obviously, everybody wants to do all the creative things, and we do have a couple of creative specific student workers that just do that. But by and large, the vast majority of our staff is very interchangeable when it comes to broadcast production, photography, videography, stat inputting, calling, you name it. So jumping back into our run of show here, kind of with a good follow-up question to this, honestly, is when you're getting new students, what's the best onboarding process? And then once you do have them onboarded, if you're one of those offices that has students come in and do office hours during the week, what do you have them do during the week?
I'll start. Yeah. So I think the onboarding process obviously depends on your school. Some schools have to go through a process of going through the paperwork first before they can even be hired. Some schools allow you to kind of hire your kids, and as the process is going, they can still work. That's kind of how we are at Tufts. There's obviously they have to get all their paperwork and stuff and all that in, but when we're onboarding them, it's, they come in for office hours twice a week. If they're, stat office workers, do 2-hour shifts a week. And then a lot of the initial time that they're in the office is training. Here's where our photos are. Here's where like our box, shelter, whatever photo shelter is. Here's where all of our video is, and all that. They're kind of like just getting them comfortable. And then, a lot of what we do in terms of office hours are archiving and editing photos, writing game previews, and, player bios. Obviously, once the seasons are over, we try to get those up as soon as the season's over for our player bios and coaching bios. And obviously, the more comfortable you are with students in terms of updating the website and how comfortable you are with their ability to write and be detail oriented is, how comfortable you are with that. But those are the jobs that we have for our office hour students. And obviously they'll help update other things as, things come in to your office. But those are the main things that our students do in our office when they're in.
When we're onboarding, and this is kind of a two-parter for us here at Charleston, I can onboard right as a 12-month employee. I onboard my students in July so that by the time that they come in August, they're all set and ready to go. That also helps give me a buffer because I'll need to go get, and I should just have it saved. But for this reason, I don't. I need to get their student ID number so that I can do that onboarding process, which then kind of creates a little feel for me on how quickly do they respond back? Do they respond back right? I've had a few this summer, that didn't respond that I thought were coming back and told me in the spring, and they decided to go elsewhere, right? So now I'm preparing to pick up some more freshmen in August and July, as opposed to figuring that out once school started and they stopped showing up. The other side of things, I don't pay majority of my interns. That's kind of set up on the front end when they reach out. When I say, hey, this is an experience. I only have a certain amount of money. I pay my juniors and seniors right now. I pay 4 of them as it stands. And if it's something you want to work at in the experience, right? And I understand that takes a certain type of kid. When they're coming into the office, we have them do wide range of pretty much anything, right? They're helping with our photo archive database. They're writing previews. They're making graphics for our student athletes we're going to honor at a basketball game. I just sent some of them out at 11 to go hand out flyers on campus for an event we're having tonight. I try to put them in times with other interns, right? So that they can feed off each other, develop relationships with maybe someone they wouldn't have met outside of this office, and that they can kind of figure it out together, right? Kind of create that community and that it's somewhere they enjoy going to. I think the 4 girls I just had out there, they won't ever stop talking and it's great. And we love kind of the vibe they bring to the office, but they probably wouldn't have known each other. So that's a fun thing too. Special projects, I like to save them for when interns are coming in. They've helped us make photo backdrops before. They've helped us lay out t-shirts in the arenas, right? Kind of put things aside that they can do that I know is a little bit something more fun and out of the ordinary.
Another question just came in through the live chat. We appreciate everyone participating in that. Be sure to keep sending those in. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. We want to hit this one before we keep in mind our time and move on to the next section. But in relating to office hours and everything else, what resources are you giving your student workers in order to create graphics? Is it Photoshop exclusive, or are do you have a subscription to any one of numerous design services like box outs, score shots, or sideline design, or even Canva that your students are using to create content for you in the graphic space?
Yeah, I can take this one really quick. We use a combination of Photoshop here and Gipper as well. We're not on Gipper a ton, but we do have it for, like I just mentioned, those student athlete graphics for halftime of a basketball game. Those quick things that are quick hitters, we'll give them that access. But 95% of what we're doing is on Photoshop. Your Photoshop access, and I could be wrong on this, but when it's coming through a university, you can have two login sources, right? So my full-time staff, we all have our individual logins. I also have an extra one that I can give to an intern. A lot of campuses too will also do a free Adobe program for students under kind of a student login. So it's worth investigating and figuring out, especially if Photoshop is what you're using as the full-time staff member, your intern should be aligning with what you're using. And campuses a lot of times will provide those resources to students.
Yeah, we're the same way here at Tufts. We have students can apply to get a license through Adobe Creative Suite, and they can get it for free. We also can get it for free as staff members here. I understand that is not the norm, but we're very lucky in that sense that any of our students that want to get Adobe products can just apply for a free license. So when we have graphic design students, they just use their own Photoshop, but Lynn was right. You do, if you're through an educational, you get two logins, or two people can be logged into the same account at the same time. So, if you have 3 full-time staff members, then that's kind of like 6 licenses. So that's what we use when we're having our students use that. So they have their own normally.
And they can log in and out of that too, right? So you can log
Right.
them in when they're coming in. It's not just theirs. You have an extra one to give.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind our time, we're going to go ahead and jump ahead to talking about retention and also kind of falling under this staffing and scheduling. There's one question in the chat that I would like to get to, so I appreciate your patience. I didn't forget about you, but one I guess I'm going to preface this question in the chat by asking you two, what's the best way or ways to share job assignments with each of your workers?
Jamie, yeah, we have. Jamie, go ahead.
So no, you just go ahead. Start. You can go ahead.
I have done it both ways. So I have scheduled out workers week of. I've sent a group me message Monday morning, 8 a.m. And I've scheduled them out through basketball season in October. Whatever's going to work best for you in your office. I kind of find nowadays the latter one works because they are getting a little more organized and they're planning further ahead. So the more notice you can give them, the more kind of safety and security you can feel for yourself. And that also lets you plan on the front end. All right, I already sense that this date in January is going to be a little bit tough. What can I do on the front end to make sure this goes according to plan? But a lot of times it's just they know after a while what they're going to be doing at each sport. So if I've got them at soccer, they're going to be either helping out with social media or helping out calling stats. If they're at basketball, they're going to be stat running and doing Instagram stories, right? So it's kind of a certain task there. I group my photographers in a little bit of a different realm. That I don't assign them as the intern for the game. I assign them as the photographer for the game. So it splits it on the front end, but it's talking to them, right? Like it's just figuring out, hey, how's your day going? Oh, by the way, I see you're on the schedule for this soccer game Saturday. I'm going to have you do stat calling for our inputter. That sound good to you, right? Just have a conversation.
Yeah, what we do in terms of job assignments is, I assign job, kind of the assignments for the whole semester. I try to get that out in the first week of the semester once I have my student worker group finalized. So pretty much the first week of September, I'm sending out the schedule for the entire fall season through the regular season. And then I also kind of plan for our teams to be hosting like conference quarterfinals and conference semis, because I always find it's easier to tell your student workers, hey, we don't actually have to work this weekend, then, hey, I really need you to work this weekend. So they can plan to have it. And so in terms of office hours and stuff, I think a lot of times, we're always running around, right? Like it could be we have to go talk to a coach or run to a coach's show or go record an interview or something like that. So we have a whiteboard in our office that has like student worker job assignments for that day. So it might be, archive photos from volleyball this past weekend or, whatever. And so there's a long list of tasks they have. They come in, see what they want to do. they start working on it. And when they're done, they cross off the list and then just go to the next thing. So there's a lot of times where you have 2 or 3 student workers in my office, like working so that they can kind of collaborate with what they want to do. So that if I come back in, they already are working. And that's been really, really good for them, like not just coming in and if you're out of the office, they're just sitting there. So they all know that there's like a task board ready to go. They come down, sit down, look at what they want to do, and then kind of get to that.
Obviously, the best laid plans sometimes don't necessarily go to plan when it comes to staffing. Our favorite times of the year, or I guess not our favorite times of the year, the dreaded break games of fall, winter, and spring break when your student staff goes away. I know personally I was a kid that stayed late and came back early because I enjoyed the money. I didn't necessarily have a ton to do when I was at home. But how do you both approach those weeks when you know you're going to be strapped for bodies to do things? Jamie, we'll have you lead this one.
Yeah, so we're in a pretty unique situation where some of our student workers are local. I think that maybe that's not unique, but a lot of our student workers are pretty local. And actually a couple of them are, most of our stat kids are pretty local. So, if they have to come back to work a basketball doubleheader, on a Friday and a Saturday, they can do that. Also, we're in a big metropolitan area, and I know that this isn't like always available to most people, but we can find student workers from other schools or other professionals that can come over and help us. But if you have students that are local, incentivize coming back. And also, like, if you have a great relationship with your student workers, they don't mind coming back to help you out because they enjoy being around the sports, atmosphere, enjoy working for you. So if you make it fun and you incentivize it, like, hey, I can pay you, maybe time and a half for holiday work or something like that. We've gotten that approved before. See what you're able to do to incentivize it for them. But if you have a great relationship with these students, they're going to be like, hey, I'm already in town. Like, I don't mind helping out. Or, we have some alums that work in Boston that still ask me every day, can I come stat some volleyball? So just because our relationship was great over the 4 years that they were here. So, if you have those resources like that are local, use them the best you can, especially when, a lot of the kids are gone.
Lynn?
I'll agree with Jamie too on, right, if these students and you're creating a relationship, we just finished fall break. I had to stay back and admittedly in my head, I didn't know it was fall break. And I said, oh, what do you do? And they said, well, I'm working for you. What do you mean? Right. So if they want to do it, they'll take the time of their calendar. The best part about breaks is that a year in advance when that break is going to be. So it's really on you on the front end to plan those things out and be aware of the games that are going to come up and when you might not have students. But I think that's especially in smaller departments, it's having a good relationship with your athletic director to feel comfortable going to them and say, hey, I'm really strapped. I don't know what I'm going to do. And assistant coaches as well, right? They get it. They don't want it to happen to them over fall break, what's going to happen in spring break, right? So go ask some of the sports that are out of season. If they're assistants, odds are they need some money as well, and whatever you can throw them, they won't say no to. But that's, again, goes back to creating relationships in departments. Something I've done, and I've really only done it on the volleyball space, but it could probably apply to some other sports as well, because volleyball tables are a beast to task with the amount that's on our office. So I've reached out to 3 or 4 local AAU, travel, USAV volleyball clubs here. And I've got about 3 or 4 club coaches that come and do book for us. And right, some of them do 2 games a season, some do 5 or 6. But it's creating things out of the box with people that are in those spaces outside of students, right? So this is kind of getting into more community related things to help you out. But right, a soccer club, a basketball club, right? You don't have to teach these people the rules of the game. You just have to teach them what buttons to press.
Some great answers there. We're not necessarily coming up on time, but we are starting to come to the back end of our time together. But there are still some things that I do want to discuss. Some questions in the chat that have come in. It kind of relates to one of our talking points here. What are some key ways to keep student workers positive and engaged while they're working? And then what are some signs you might notice of any mental health struggles or just struggles in general that they may be experiencing in dealing with those? Lynn, I'll let you lead that one.
Yeah, I've said it a million times on this call as well, but it's developing relationships with them and knowing when something is off, right? You can't view these students coming into an office as just people that are going to get work done for you. That might be why it starts off and the inception of, right, we need student workers to take things off our plate and help them out. But if you want it to be successful, it requires more of you. And that means getting to know them as human beings, right? And being able to tell when something's not right. We had a student intern who was great, and she just kind of stopped showing up. And she texted me maybe 30 minutes after her hours. Oh, really sorry, homework got in the way, this, that got in the way, I forgot, right? And then those texts, she stopped showing up and those texts stopped coming. And she came in maybe 3 or 4 months later and said, "Can I please meet with you?" Explained what was going on, right? But she felt comfortable doing that, right? And she was going through some stuff. But this was a place that she wanted to come back through once she figured that out. And that was kind of like a aha moment for me of, yes, she can help me with social media and she can help me organize photo archives, but like that I've been a part of her college journey. It's, if you want student workers to work, it can't just be them. It can't be a one-sided relationship. And that's just a fact of it.
Yeah, I think your attitude kind of like will, go back onto your student workers, and I think being positive around them, and being happy to see them, and being excited about the job. We're all really passionate about this job, about being in this field. That's why we're in it. And if you're positive and happy and excited about, like, working a soccer doubleheader, they'll be excited to come work with you because they know how what it means to you, what it means to, the whole department, what it means to student workers or student athletes. And so, I just think about one time, we were hosting a regional for soccer. Our team got knocked out on the Saturday, but we were still hosting the Sunday. And that's tough to, like, those student workers got to come back. You've got to come back to work the next day on a neutral site game with a team. But you got to think about it like, hey, we're sending a team to the Final Four tomorrow. Like, this is a big deal. And I know our team isn't playing, but let's be excited for these students that, though they're not our students right now, it's our responsibility to set this and make this about the student athlete experience for them. And that way, the next day they show up, they're excited to watch an Elite Eight soccer game, despite the fact that it's not your team. And so it's all about the way that you kind of convey what they're doing, that will make them excited and keep them positive about going to. And obviously there are times where, they might have to miss a party or they might have to miss something. And that's just like, that's just how it goes sometimes. And then you also have to be understanding that if they call out because of something, like, that's, hey, like Lynn said, they're in college. Sometimes you just have to deal with that and do what you can.
Just a quick follow-up with all this one. Question in the chat that I wanted to mention, and that's why I jumped to this subject. Giving leeway to your student workers on how much they're able to balance college life versus work responsibilities. I know we talked about this in our planning call, but they're all of our workers are three things. They are a person, they are a student, and then they are a worker. Worker usually falls third. Just quick answers on that question from both of you too.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about sports is that we have our schedules well in advance, right? So I think the earlier you provide that to them, just on the front end, they can plan their lives too, but also understanding that things come up, right? My notice of things shifting and coming, I just ask them to tell me 24 hours ahead. That might be a little less than people would like to know to fill it. But if you can set that standard, and when I do get those 24-hour notice texts, oftentimes they're really apologetic because of that, and kind of the system that's been set up for them. I don't want to be some rigid, structured, right, things that are going on. But having backup plans is really important too. Whether that's with assistant coaches, whether that's with your other staff members, whether that's just being okay to maybe have this game, whether it's your social coverage or what you're able to do broadcast wise, just not be 100%. Like, things happen, and you can only control what you can control.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 24-hour rule is great, and that's something we have here as well at Tufts. And I think the way to communicate now, there's a million different ways to communicate with each other, so like emails or text or whatever. But we also don't. If a student comes to me an hour or 2 hours before a game and they're really, really upset about something, I normally will just let them have that off and we'll make it work. Like, certain things, it kind of affect other people differently than like they might affect me. And so I try not to tell people how to feel about how certain things are. So if they come to me and they're like, I really need today off, like, I'm having a tough time, like, if you show like true empathy and compassion for the way that they are feeling at that time, they'll remember that. And then when they're able to help you out, they will go above and beyond to try to do that for you in another time. We've had that happen this year a few times. It put me in a tough spot, but we got through it. The games happened. We managed, and we came out the other side with a worker that really felt like they were cared for and valued. And so that's really what we do to when those situations come up.
Just have a couple minutes left here. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to our last subsection in our notes here, talking about growth and development. This was a question that we had submitted pre-registered, and someone else has already popped it again here in the live chat. So appreciate all that. Celebrating your student workers and everything they do for your offices. Do you do anything for them, like hosting an events, like a luncheon, take them out to lunch, or social media shout outs, or a bulletin board? How do you guys celebrate the contributions of your student staff and all their hard work?
We give them a T-shirt, right, for starting it's a means, wear this to the games too, but it's gear. It says Charleston Athletics on it, makes them feel like they're a part of the team. As far as that go, right, it's just checking up on them, I think goes a long way. Of asking people how they are is something that's free and you can do all the time. I have a candy bowl too, right? Like, I'm not above that. I've got a bowl that I fill in my office and it goes pretty quick. At the end of the year, right, it's nothing great, but I just buy them pizza and they can come by if they want. We've got a bulletin board in kind of our main space. And we just take a very quick picture of each senior at their last game. Nothing posed. A lot of the times they don't like the picture. It's just them in action. There's one and she's holding a stat sheet, or she's bent over on stat crew doing a softball game. And we just hang it on the wall. So it's all of our seniors are up on that wall, and kind of something fun and goofy and helps them look forward to it.
Yeah, we've done the same thing with the photo board. Normally, after when they've been into their second year, they've worked a full year for us. We'll try to get a photo up on the wall of them working, so that they, and they never know when it's going to go up. It just kind of goes up, and so that's something we've tried to do with a blank wall on our board in my office. I think it's a lot of, obviously there's, membership weekend or membership appreciation week. There's design contests for your creatives to, do that. I know people have done student worker of the year award, stuff like that. It's just the little things that you can do every day, to make them feel valued. I don't know if it's, swag is great and they would always appreciate that, if you can do it. But if it's like lanyards at games or things like that, like just little things that make them feel appreciated, they really do value that. But even a simple thank you, it goes a long way.
Yeah, credentials are great too. Jamie brings up lanyards, right? Credentials, they can be the official school credential if you do those, but you can also make them on Canva. I'm pretty sure you can make them on like Word. There's a template. And even if it doesn't mean anything at your institution, if you don't require kind of that security presence, just to have and to be acknowledged that I'm doing a working function, I play an important part in making this thing happen, goes a long way as well.
One final topic that I did want to hit on, definitely, especially since student workers sometimes become the future of this industry. I know that's personally how I got started, and I won't speak for Jamie or Lynn, but I would imagine we all probably have a roughly similar origin story. But for student workers who want to pursue a career in this industry, how can you best set them up for success in order to avoid burnout or an early departure from the field? I feel like that's become more and more prevalent in these more recent years, with just how many job openings there are in places running through athletic communication professionals, fairly regular basis. Lynn, I'll have you lead this one.
Yeah, first you have to figure out that they have an interest in this and they like doing it. And then I think I described it on our call of kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit, of saying, all right, if you want to do this, let's do it. These are the hours you work. These are the games you work, the responsibilities, the weekends, and also having them figure out what exactly they want to do, right? Are they a jack of all trades? Maybe we go more of a smaller school D3 route, right? Do we want to focus on social media? Maybe we find a social media specific position. They need to develop and create core values with the jobs they're applying for. And if that's an office similar to yours, help them use your connections. I think you'd really get along with Jamie at Tufts. I'm going to send him an email and see if he has anything.
Jamie?
Yeah, no, when I was at Lynchburg, actually, it's funny enough, me and Lynn both went to Lynchburg. But when I was at Lynchburg as a undergrad, my boss at the time, I told him I wanted to do more. And so what he did is he went out of my way, I went out of his way to say like, hey, you should come with me to the conference championship to see what we do at a conference championship. Or you should go to a workshop. Like you should go to EastCom or whatever. You can do other ways to make them feel like, hey, this is a little bit more what it's about. Like, and so they feel a little bit more, oh, it's not just working games. There is more to the piece of learning about it. And then also, you know, I try to still do the things that I really, really love to do around my student workers, so they see the passion and excitement that I get, so that they say, oh, wow, this job is really exciting. Because if they come in all the time and you're working on things that you just thoroughly maybe don't like about the job, then they're going to be like, this guy's just angry and upset all the time that he has to handle things. And there's obviously lots of things about the job that aren't always the most fun to do, but do some things you really love doing around them. So they're like, man, he's fired up to be in here today. That sounds like a super fun job. Like I would love to do this as a living instead of doing all the stuff that maybe you don't like doing around them. And then it'll just be like, man, that's kind of a drag. So that's what I would say for that.
Well, we are up on time today, so thank you to all of our attendees. Thank you to our two awesome panelists for your time this morning and this afternoon. For those of you who are on the East Coast, like both of you two are, appreciate your time, your insight, and sharing your experience working and involving your students on campus and in your departments. I want to thank everyone who joined, watched along, and submitted questions for the live Q&A and in the pre-registration. Please take a moment to complete our brief post-webinar survey to help us improve future programming. Let us know what you want to see next. Be sure to go to collegesportscommunicators.com for updates on future webinars and membership news. Be sure to tell your friends about this webinar. It'll be available on demand once we finish up. But appreciate all of you for your time this morning. Thank you all for submitting all your questions and everything again. We appreciate it. Good luck with all your events this weekend, and we'll see you again down the road. Thanks.